Hello, BookTube. Sorry to miss a day yesterday. I had, first thing in the morning, a whole list in my mind of things I wanted to do, videos I wanted to make, things I wanted to talk to you about, but the day itself was just relentlessly sad. Thing after thing after thing, including two public things. The death of the great science fiction writer Gene Wolfe and the fire that gutted Notre Dame Cathedral. By the middle of the afternoon, I knew that I like to come to you happy. I like to be happy. I'd like to try to anyway. And I knew by the end of the afternoon that I wasn't going to be able to do that. I'm going to try again today, and we'll see how it goes. And I thought the surest way to try to perk myself up would be with a mail haul. There was mail yesterday. Yesterday was a regional holiday here in Boston. It was Patriots Day. It was Marathon Monday. But there was still mail because it's not a federal holiday. And there's mail this morning. So I thought we'd go through these packages. It's just a handful of them, and it ends in 2 boxes. And we'll see if this can cheer me up. Although just talking to you is cheering me up as well. So let's see. Okay, the first one is a slim volume of poetry, which we don't hate on this channel anymore because we're reading poetry with an open mind and an adventurous spirit, and also communally. So I'm learning a lot from the rest of you on how to read contemporary poetry. So this one is by Dobby Gibson, and it is called Little Glass Planet. It's due in late May, and it has a blurb from BuzzFeed Books. I have never written anything for BuzzFeed Books. I don't think I've ever read a lot on BuzzFeed Books. Are they good? Are they the equivalent of BuzzFeed News? I don't know. So the hub sheets on slim volumes of poetry are always singularly unhelpful. This one says that Little Glass Planet exalts in the strangeness of the known and unknowable world. In poems set as far afield as Mumbai and Marfa, Texas, Gibson maps disparate landscapes, both terrestrial and subliminal, and so on. So it's not going to be helpful. It's going to be that I'm going to have to read the poems and find out. But that's okay. The author wrote a collection called Polar, which won the Alice James Award. Also books called Skirmish and It Becomes You. And he lives in St. Paul. And this is due in late May, so I'm not going to bother with it for a little bit. There are lots of other books clamoring for my attention. But let's see what the next one is. One of these pressed white envelopes. We should have lots more to talk about today. And with any luck, we won't have just a day of relentless sad news. So that would be nice. So what have we got here? Okay. All right. I don't know what this is. This is by Karen Olson, and it is the Veal conjectures on math and the pursuit of the unknown. Simone Veal, it's a book about math. So starting off with a slim volume of poetry and a book about math. I mean, what's going to be next? You and your cat? Let's see. You know Karen Olson as the author of 2 deeply observant novels, Waterloo and All the Houses. Now she turns to her other love, mathematics, as a different way to express creativity. It is often said that you are either a math or English person. Olson is both a true polymath. She was never a math prodigy, and yet she majored in it in college. She never planned to be a mathematician, but she loved the feeling she found with math, the pure joy of being on the brink of discovery. To her, there's a clear and elegant parallel to the experience of writing. Okay, you're going to have to work to convince me of that. I'm willing to be convinced, but that just strikes me as impossible. But math is, to me, if there is no truth to that dictum of there are math people and there are English people, it's certainly true with me. I can't even do basic arithmetic. And I've worked hard to do it because I get creative books about math where it's clear to me when I'm reading them that my enjoyment would skyrocket if I understood more of the math involved. Even when the authors are trying hard to make that non-essential, I still get that impression. So I've tried hard to do it, but I don't even know arithmetic. I don't, it just doesn't stick. But anyway, this is due later in the summer. Yes, this is due in late July, so I don't have to worry about it for now. Let's move on to this next one. I confess I'm now kind of hoping for a book that I do have to worry about. So, let's see what this next one is. Okay, all right. Well, at least it's not poetry or math. This is a historical novel, historical fiction. So just the deluge of historical fiction that's coming out in 2019. This comes out in early May. So it's right on my horizon. I could easily read this today. And it is by Cressida Connolly, and it's called After the Party. There we have a woman walking up to a gigantic stately home of England in the mist. It is the summer of 1938, and Phyllis Forrester has returned to England after years abroad. Moving into her sister's grand country house, there you go, she soon finds herself entangled in a new world of idealistic beliefs and seemingly innocent friendships. Idealistic beliefs and seemingly innocent friendships. Why do I have a feeling the Mitford sisters are going to make an appearance? Fevered talk of another war infiltrates their small, privileged circle, giving way to a thrilling solution: the appointment of a great and charismatic new leader who will restore England to its former glory. I swear I did not know anything about this book. That sure sounds like Oswald Mosley. At a party hosted by her new friends, Philip lets down her guard for a single moment with devastating consequences. Years later, alone and embittered, she recounts the dramatic events that led to her imprisonment and changed the course of her life forever. Poignant, powerful, and exquisitely observed, London Times bestselling author Cressida Connolly's After the Party is an illuminating portrait of a dark period in British history that has yet to be fully explored. Okay, well that's intriguing. It's not a long thing. It'll take an hour to read. And the pub sheet is full of nice vaguenesses, so that I mean, I guess to intrigue the reader. But if this is not about the brown shirts, then I'm the Shah of Iran. So, well, not that I object. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if it is. It's just, I'm not sure why the American sell sheet would avoid specifics like that, unless maybe they're thinking that would bog things down. But surely readers of historical fiction will want to be bogged down with specifics. Well, maybe I'm wrong too. Maybe Oswald Mosley and the Mitford sisters aren't in this at all, though it seems to me likely. After the party, with the double entendre of the word party as both a festive occasion and a political group, we shall see. I will read it right away, so I'll report back. Then we'll move on here. This is the last package before the boxes, so we'll see what this one is. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, all right. This comes out on October 1st, so it's a long way from now. The longest away. I believe this is the furthest ahead publication date that I've received so far. I know that I haven't received yet a 2020 book. I know that hasn't happened. But October, I believe, is the latest I've got. And I did not know this was coming. This is by Nicholas Buchala, and it's The Fire is Upon Us: James Baldwin, William F. Buckley, and the Debate Over Race in America. And there they are. Oh, this is going to be about just one show? On February 18th, 1965, an overflowing crowd packed the Cambridge Union in Cambridge, England, to witness a historic televised debate between James Baldwin, the leading literary voice of civil rights movement, and William F. Buckley, a fierce critic of the movement and America's most influential conservative intellectual. The topic was, quote, "The American dream is at the expense of the American Negro." And no one who has seen the debate can forget it. And of course, anyone can see the debate. I'm sure it's on YouTube. The author's The Fire is Upon Us is the first book to tell the full story of the event, the radically different paths that led Baldwin and Buckley to it, the controversies that followed, and how the debate and the decades-long clash between the men continues to illuminate American racial divide today. Born in New York City only 15 months apart, the Harlem-raised Baldwin and the privileged Buckley could not have been more different, but they rose to the height of American intellectual life during the Civil Rights Movement. By the time they met in Cambridge, Buckley was determined to sound the alarm about a man he considered an eloquent menace. For his part, Baldwin viewed Buckley as a deluded reactionary whose popularity revealed the sickness of the American soul. The stage was set for an epic confrontation that pitted Baldwin's call for a moral revolution in race relations against Buckley's unabashed elitism and implicit commitment to white supremacy. Huh. Okay. All right. So who is the author? Who is Nicholas Buccola? Do we know? Are we told anything about him? He's the author of Political Thought of Frederick Douglass, and the editor of The Essential Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln and Liberal Democracy. I wonder whose side of the debate he'll be on. His work has appeared in the New York Times, Salon, and many other publications. And he is a professor at Linfield College in Oregon and lives in Portland. And he almost certainly either wrote this pub sheet or approved it. And I think it's fascinating. It does just what you want a pub sheet to do. It tees the whole thing up so that you're eager to read the book. The one thing I quibble with is that very last line. Buckley's implicit commitment to white supremacy makes me a little queasy. That makes me a little queasy. I think Buckley himself would have vociferously said that is not true, that it's in fact libel. But you can't libel the dead. So we'll see what this book is. I am intrigued. It's so far ahead, October, that I really can't justify reading this advance copy right away. I mean, October is well on the doorstep of winter, and we haven't even reached spring in Boston yet, much less summer. So I'll probably put it down on the shelf and wait a bit. Probably, because there's so much else I have to read. But I admit, it intrigues me. All right, so now we'll do the boxes. This has perked up my spirits, so thank you for that, as always. I don't know how I got through sad days or blue periods without all of you. I really don't. I don't know how other people do it either. I just think, well, talk to your lame-ass booktube friends, and you'll be fine. So what have we got here? Okay, I think we saw this already in advance copy. This is Sandro Gallia. This is a book called Well, with the subtitle, What We Need to Talk About When We Talk About Health. Which, the 80 millionth echo of Raymond Carver, but we'll leave that alone. This has a blurb by Ariana Huffington. What makes the difference between healthy and unhealthy on a large scale? According to Dr. Sandro Gallia, Dean of Boston University's School of Public Health and the author of Well, Americans focus on the wrong things when they talk about health. Take, for example, the life and death of the iconic blues singer Blind Willie Johnson, who was born in the segregated South at the tail end of the 19th century. As a child, he was the victim of domestic abuse and was blinded at the hand of his stepmother at the age of 7. Poverty dogged him throughout his life, and when his house burned down in 1945, he was forced to live in the ruins. Amid these damp and cold living conditions, he caught malaria and soon died. According to his wife, he was refused treatment in a hospital either because of the color of his skin or his disability. The story of Willie is more than just a heartbreaking tale. It exemplifies just how profoundly our health is shaped by the forces around us. One could argue that it wasn't just malaria that killed Willie, but that it was the sum of his life's hardships: poverty, racism, violence, homelessness, and the limited access to health care. Well offers a radical call to re-examine the way we think about health. Americans talk often and loudly about doctors, health insurance, diet, and lifestyle, but overlook how health interacts with factors like power, wealth, politics, justice, and compassion. As the author shows, until we fully understand these forces and bring them to the forefront of our conversation, we will never meaningfully move the needle on our nation's health. Okay, and the author At the time of his current appointment, he was the youngest dean at the School of Public Health in the United States. He is fairly young, and I'm. This is due on May the 1st, so I'll read it right away. I disagree with a lot of the statements that are in the pub sheet. Blind Willie Johnson would have received life-saving treatment for the malaria that he contracted in the ruins of his burned-out house, had he been able to pay for it. Had he gone to his local hospital, whether they had a separate wing for colored people or not, at the time that would certainly have been the case. One way or another, if he had been able to hand the hospital staff $1,000 cash, they would have treated him, and he would have lived. So, this business of, what was it? Power, wealth, politics, justice, and compassion boils down to wealth. Unfortunately, criminally in this country, it boils down to wealth. I don't know why you would use him as an example, actually, now that I think about it. Why would you use him as an example? The fact that his mother blinded him when he was age 7 has nothing to do. It isn't connected in any way with his death years later from the malaria that he contracted by exposure. And probably drinking ditch water. That has nothing to do. His story, it seems to me, you're raising lots and lots of big distractions to get in the way of your real story, of the real point of the book. Better to use, some anonymous person who lived a normal life, who had a fine, normal upbringing. I don't know. Blind Willie Johnson's house burned down in 1945. Pick an ordinary line worker at an auto plant in 1945. A black man in his 40s, father of a family, holds down that job, is subjected to a double standard in terms of pay, insurance, anything else at the workplace, but who nevertheless doesn't have any of these picturesque things to distract the reader when he contracts malaria. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's the author's choice, and we shall see. This comes out so soon that much like After the Party, I can just get to it right away. I don't think that I've read this. I don't think I've read about it either. So I will dive right in and see if I'm arguing with the author. And then we've got the last one here. This is the last box. There will probably be other things today. Let's see what we have here. Okay. All right, another book from Princeton. This is by Jody Magnus, and this is Masada, From Jewish Revolt to Modern Myth. Good Lord. Okay, this comes out soon. It must come out soon. Yeah, this comes out in late May. 2,000 years ago, 967 Jewish men, women, and children, the last holdouts of the revolt against Rome following the fall of Jerusalem and the destruction of the Second Temple, reportedly took their own lives rather than surrender to the Roman army. This dramatic event, which took place on top of Masada, a barren and windswept mountain overlooking the Dead Sea, spawned a powerful story of Jewish resistance that came to symbolize the embattled modern state of Israel. The first extensive archaeological excavations of Masada began in the 1960s, and today the site draws visitors from around the world. And yet, because the mass suicide was recorded by only one ancient author, the Jewish historian Josephus, some scholars question if the event ever took place, as well they should, because calling Josephus a Jewish historian doesn't really do justice to the full turpitude of his life, the full moral bankruptcy of how he got to a position to write about Masada in the first place. So, as well they should. The idea that these people all killed themselves on top of Masada, and that the rampaging Roman soldiers who had been denied this booty, this crosshatch in their shield for all those months in the hot sun, the idea that they stormed the top of that mountain and found only dead people and didn't kill anyone, or Josephus' account actually has some survivors, a handful of survivors, but the idea that happened is just one of those things you read in ancient history where you think, oh, come on. That's a fine story, but what about human nature? I myself don't believe in mass suicides. I just don't. Almost every account that I've ever seen of mass suicides, I mean, a suicide pact, yes, but a large group of people, almost every account that I have read of mass suicide strikes me as fraudulent. obviously fraudulent, including Jonestown. And Masada the same way. I don't think it's a part of. Well, anyway, the author is the Kennan Distinguished Professor of Teaching Excellence in Early Judaism. So that is a title, Teaching Excellence in Early Judaism, in the Department of Religious Studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. What a good school. Oh my. And she's written a bunch of books. In 1995, she co-directed excavations in the Roman siege works at Masada, and in 2011 she directed excavations in Galilee. Okay, so she has lots of hands-on experience. That's great. That's fantastic. Okay, well, this comes up right away, and it's Roman history as much as it is Jewish history. So I will gladly consume it. I know just what's going to happen, though, and it shouldn't happen. It's not right. But reading a book like this, I've read in the wake of the TV miniseries Masada. There were a whole bunch of books on Masada, and they all caused me to do the same thing. They caused me to reread Josephus, and I really shouldn't. I really shouldn't do that. But at least I can use the occasion to strongly recommend that miniseries. It stars Peter Strauss as Elazar ben Yair, the leader of the Jews up on Masada, and Peter O'Toole as the General Flavius, who led the siege. And it's amazing. It's amazingly written. It's an amazingly good miniseries. O'Toole gives an incredible performance. I mean, I made no secret, I think he's one of the greatest actors of all time, but he does have lazy performances, and in Masada, he is incredible. Just incredible. And some of the speeches are just instantly memorable. I dramatized one on this channel, but I could do them all. I could do all of Peter O'Toole's speeches. There's one scene in Masada. Probably all of Masada is on YouTube. I should probably see if it is and maybe rewatch it. There's one scene where Flavius Silva invites Elazar ben Yair to his tent in the Roman encampment for a talk. After hours, at night, when no one knows they're there, just between the two of them to see if they can come to some sort of working resolution of this problem. Because Flavius Silva believes in working resolutions. In this miniseries, he is as enlightened as a Roman can get. A trait that he shares with the Emperor Vespasian, who is also in the miniseries. And has a wonderful scene. Flavius Silva returns to Rome just briefly in the miniseries, and he has a wonderful scene with his old friend and companion Vespasian. And says, "Do you remember what we talked about in the field? It wasn't just a world without Nero; it was a world enlightened. That was the word we used." And he names a person in the Roman Senate who has nothing but contempt for Vespasian. Says that, but he has never dreamt that dream, and he never will. So tread carefully, he says, essentially, my name heads the list, and your name is on it. So if I do end up taking that little leap off the Tarpeian rock, I won't be taking it alone. But in the scene where Flavius Silva talks to Elazar ben Yair, there are some just scathingly wonderful bits, just wonderful, including Flavius Silva gives a withering summary of the Romans' time in Palestine. And it ends it with, give us our due, man. We know how to kill. But the whole of it is just eloquent in the extreme. So I can use this book. I will recommend this book if it's any good. But I can use it anyway to recommend that miniseries, because a lot of you are young. You might not even have ever heard of it. And YouTube is vast, so it could be there. So I'm going to look that up myself. But anyway, that was the mail. At least the first blush of mail for today. And it did cheer me up a bit, so thank you as always. So we have a new book on Masada. New History of Masada. Sounds like the author is going to dig into whether or not Josephus is to be believed. Since he is absolutely not to be believed, that's good. I just wish it could be longer. Then After the Party by Cressida Connolly, who's referred to as a best-selling author. I'm assuming that's in the UK. I don't recall her being a best-selling author in America. Then we have The Fire is Upon Us. Probably the most intriguing book in this bit. A full-blown history of the debate between William F. Buckley and James Baldwin on the subject of race in America. I am sure that it will get reviewed. Certainly in the magazine that Buckley founded, it will get reviewed. But I'm sure that every reviewer will use as a hook for the review the fact that race relations haven't improved in America. I'm going to resist doing that myself. It's a little too easy. Then Well by Sandro Galea, about how we re-envision wellness in America. Then a poetry collection, Little Glass Planet, and a math book. A book on the beauty of math, how it's as sublime as an undertaking as fiction. We shall see. I am still grappling with that book about 99 arguments for a proof, that oversized math book that we got probably a month ago now, 2 months ago. Haven't been able to let it go. So I'm still grappling with that, largely because I don't understand the math that undergirds it, or I don't think I'd be grappling with it still. And now I've got another book. Maybe this book will help, but I doubt it. It seems like it's going to be singing to the choir, and I'm not in that choir. But we shall see. Fascinating batch of stuff. Anyway, so I will wrap this up for now, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.